Okay, so we're picking up here on I Am That by Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. And we are on the chapter, I got to go away, 29, Living is Life's Only Purpose. And that's really quite simple. I'm kind of settling into that perspective for a while. I mentioned it, I think, well, the other day anyway, I mentioned it somewhere. This notion of, our race to the finish line, that we sort of approach our spiritual life as a race to realization, and we're doing everything for a goal, for an attainment. And there's a couple of things that have been bothering me about that. And I'm sort of moving more and more in that direction of this idea that this is not the point. This isn't a race. We're not racing to a goal to get there as fast as possible. I part of what nags me on this is I keep thinking, if realization, of course, yes, realization is the goal of life, but not as the goal. It's that moving toward that is what makes life meaningful. And as we approach that, life becomes more and more meaningful, more and more deep. But I kind of feel like if Mother wanted us, if it was really a race to realization, that there would be a lot more people realized that she would come a lot more often than just once every 500 or 1,000 years, because really for this game to be fair, and of course this is the official announcement on what's fair, but for this game to be fair, there would almost have to be an incarnation on every city block around the world to give us any kind of, real countering to the effects of the world on us. And so that verse from the Bible in my mind keeps resonating. What does the Lord require but that a man enjoys his work and walks humbly with his God? And I can't help but to think there's a certain amount of that. Now, doing that will take us toward realization. We'll grow every day in our depth and our joy of fulfilling that, of understanding that. There's no doubt. But I think that we can't stay in the moment. We can't be present if we're practicing for something in the future. Our really, not just our lives, but our practice has to be about this moment. Sitting is about your relationship with the moment, with the I am, with God, with that divine, however you want to call it or arrange it. And in this moment, even without realization, you can enjoy the presence deeply. Because the world is relative, we're not used to the presence of God. So even if we get just a little bit of awareness, it's like a birthday cake. It's a wonderful thing. And so this idea that living is the purpose of life, settles, balances out that notion quite a bit more. That being, learning to be the light that you are, the love that you are, learning to be the being that you are. This is the zest of being. This is the zest of life. Mother didn't create a play just to get to the end of it. Every play has an end, but all the actors on the stage are not doing their parts just to get them over with, right? And so I think that maybe there should be a little bit of an adjustment in an approach for myself to spiritual life. We're not doing this to get it over with. We're doing this to play our part well. We're doing this to play our part well, to enjoy our part, to enjoy the play, to enjoy the theater of it, to enjoy being. And the way that we do that is by never forgetting that it's not what it seems, that it's unreal in a sense, and that it's just a story about an ever-present, unchanging love and wisdom. That every act of ours is another sentence in a book, following one line of divine love from beginning to end. your life from birth to death, is one line in the book of love, in what love looks like when it's expressed through this kind of mind, or through that kind of body, or through this nationality, or that sexuality, or that whatever. All of us are a single line in the book of love about what love looks like when it's shined through a mind body like this. And so that's God's play. God is playing with love and demonstrating that it can be exhibited in an infinite number of ways. And each of us is one of those ways. All right. And so in this chapter, our questions and answers have been going on. And he's talking a lot about the dreams. He says here, the questioner this morning starts with this: it's all a matter of imagination. One imagines that one is dreaming. Another imagines that one is not dreaming. Are they not both the same? Interesting. So if it's all a delusion, what does it matter what delusion you have? If you're deluded into thinking that you're a monk, or if you're deluded into thinking that you own a bacon shop on the corner, he's saying, aren't they just both delusion? What's the point then? And the master and the Maharaj says, the same and not the same. There's elements of both. Not dreaming as an interval between two dreams. Not dreaming as an interval between two dreams is, of course, a part of dreaming. Not dreaming as a steady hold on and timeless abidance in reality has nothing to do with dreaming. In that sense, I never dream, nor ever shall. Okay. So he's saying that, yes, it's true if the not dreaming you're talking about is your waking hour. You're not dreaming in waking is somehow is very similar to the delusion or your condition in dreaming during the dreaming hour. And yes, they are both part of a dreaming, right? The delusion that I experience in the waking state is a dream. And it's also the background to dreaming. You have to have not dreaming in order to have dreaming. So in that sense, yes. But in the sense of if he's talking about realization, is realization just another dream? And he says no. And he says, why? Because if we're talking about not dreaming as a steady hold on and a timeless abidance in a reality, that has nothing to do with dreaming. That's transcendent to dreaming. You have woken up both from the waking state and woken up from the dream state and the mysterious. You've woken up from all states. You're no longer you're no longer in a particular state. You have all states. You're pure potential at that point, an infinite expression of the divine. So it's the same in that and not the same in that regard. So the questioner says, well, both dream and escape from dream are imaginings. What is the way out? Right? What is the way out? Interesting question. There's a lot of very good science fiction movies about this whole notion. I can't remember the name of it, but there's one particular one where they're able to control your dreams. And it turns out that prisoners, instead of putting them into cells, they put them into a dream that they're in a cell. And so they're really just laying in a bed in this big room in big rows, but all of them is dreaming that they're locked in a cell and they can't get out. And one guy in this show escapes, right? But he doesn't really escape. He thinks he's escaped and he thinks he's running, but then he keeps seeing this pattern over and over and over again and realizes that he's just escaped in the dream, but he's still dreaming. And so he just basically goes back to his jail cell. And in the end of the book, he's just kind of sitting and whimpering in a big, open, empty room, no locks anywhere, refusing to move because he's always convinced that he's still in the dream, even though he's not in the dream anymore. And so he's playing with this idea a little bit here, this notion of like, well, if it's all a dream, what's the point? Why escape if the escaping is part of the dream? But he says, Maharaj, there is no need of a way out, right? We're not trapped in something. Don't you see that a way out is also part of the dream? All you have to do is see the dream as a dream, right? So it's not a changing, it's not a going somewhere else. It's an understanding. It's more than an understanding. I mean, it's a universal perspective. It's where you understand that nothing is particular to you. And in that state, you are everything. You are everyone. You have access to the universal mind, right? But you're not even a particular in that, because even to search through the universal mind, as it were, you would still have to be a particular searching. But you're the ising. You are that in the end. You are that absolute unchanging. Unchanging not because you're uninterested, but unchanging because you're in a state of perfection. Everything is in perfect balance. Nothing is slipping. Nothing is moving. Nothing's precarious. It's a perfect stability, but with an infinite potential, an infinite presence of everything. So there is no need of a way out. So we're not looking to get somewhere. Don't you see that a way out is also part of the dream? All you have to do is to see the dream as dream. And this is quite wonderful. As I said, for the last few days this week, I've been practicing that every morning. And there is a distinct difference in your attitude or in your feeling when you wake up and you immediately remind yourself, oh, I'm in mother's dream. One, it's my mother and it's her dream, so I know that it's fine. There's a sense of comfort in knowing that this is mother's dream, that it's a dream based on love and wisdom. So it's going to be okay in that sense. And then, like stubbing your toe on the door on the way into the bathroom, normally that would send you into a few words of exclamation and maybe ruin your mood for the morning. Oh, it's going to be one of those days, right? You go on. But when it happens in mother's dream, I liked what happened. I chuckled and I thanked her. Like, oh, thanks for including a stubbed toe in your dream this morning. That was special. And it kind of changes our attitude. Doesn't that you don't see this as the final reality. The final reality is mother behind it, right? So what happens in the dream matters less when you know it's not the final word, that it's not the absolute happening, that it's a dream, it's mother behind it. So you've got another layer of comfort, another layer of abstraction that you can go to to find some peace and to find some freedom from the mind that wants to react, that wants to be the thing. It doesn't want to be in a dream. It wants to be the thing itself. So questioner says, well, if I start the practice of dismissing everything as a dream, where will it lead me, right? If it's just a dream, what's the point of anything? These are very naive questions in a way. They're great questions. They're true questions for sure. But it's not really an understanding of the nature of the dream and the nature of us in the dream. It's like what mother said to that young brahmachari. That brahmachari sat down on a little stool next to her and he says, I'm not going to get up until I realize God. And mother chuckles actually at him. And she says, oh, that's very good. You may try, but your karma itself is going to come over here and throw you off that bench. It's not like that. We can't. You've been believing in this dream for way too long to be able to just say, it's just a dream and then be free. It's like, yes, that's the first step. But you've got a train load of bad habits and a train load of passengers who all believe in the dream. And you're going to have to convince all these different vestiges of mind that it's just a dream. And yes, that will lead you there. So if I start practicing the dismissing of everything, which again isn't really the practice, we don't dismiss. We take it as it is, but we temper it with the knowledge, right? Because there is something there. It's just not what we think is there. So we're trying to see it as it is, which is God stuff, mind stuff, that all of us are created of mind stuff. And that mind stuff belongs to the beloved. So Maharaj says, wherever it leads you, it will be a dream. The very idea of going beyond the dream is illusory. Why go anywhere? Just realize that you are dreaming a dream you call the world and stop looking for ways out. The dream is not your problem. Your problem is that you like one part of the dream and not another. Love it all or none of it and stop complaining. When you have seen the dream as a dream, you have done all that needs to be done. Very, very interesting. So the dream, the fact, our delusion, that's not the problem. And well, it is the problem. The delusion and dream are not the same. We have a delusion about the dream. And that's the problem. And that delusion is one, it's reality and our part in it, right? Because really, again, we go into the dream all the time because I'm so excited about dreaming. I find it really as almost a handwritten teaching from the divine, from God, not the contents of the dream. Not that I dream about a goose and think, oh, that means that such and such. Not like that, but in the sense that dreaming gives us firsthand experience of the truth of Vedanta. It gives you an experiential, kind of like a textbook. It gives you, you can sit there and ponder a dream and literally come up with it, the whole philosophy of Advaita Vedanta. It's all there, that everything is one without a second. And in the dream, everything is in fact one. It's the sleeper. And there's nothing more there but the sleeper and the sleeper's mind. And everything in that dream, although there's tables and lakes and oceans and boats and cars, all of it is just made up in the mind. It's all constructed of thought, constructed of mind stuff. There are no boats, there are no mountains, there are no flowers. It's just your dream. And you, just like out here in this world, we are infinite. We are everyone, right? And in your dream world, you are in fact everyone. But for whatever power of Maya, you choose one perspective, you choose one point, you choose one character to become in your dream. And you're that main character. But all the other characters also have an ego awareness. The other characters also believe in their existence, even though it's your dream. And they will act according to their own minds, even though it's your dream. Right? So you can see all of these things in this dreaming that we do each night. I mean, it's just a fantastic way to get an understanding of that which cannot be understood, to get an example of that in a way without an example. You can learn so much about your nature. I've really enjoyed this week spending some time thinking about the I that is me right now is the same I that is me in the dream. But that I in the dream has a totally different body, has no memories of this life, has no relationships that this body has none of the work or the jobs or the concerns of this body. That the body, mind in the dream that I become when I enter into the dream is a new me, all new, all unfamiliar. But it's still me. And see, if you try and sit there and really contemplate the me that's in the dream as the dream body and the me that's in the waking state, they are the same. So how can they be different bodies, different minds, different activities, different worlds, different everything, and yet not different? I'm still the same I that I will be when I wake up. And I will recognize that, even though there is nothing measurable that is the same. All the measurable stuff is changed, right? My everything has changed, and yet I'm still I. So it's a wonderful way to really purify the mind, to sit there and contemplate this whole process of dreaming, and understand how this world can be the same. That this world can be the same. And then you start doing that work about how can this world be like a dream, and if it is a dream, how can I see that it's a dream, right? And then you start playing with that kind of thing. But it's a marvelous thing. So he's telling you here, yes, wherever you get led in the dream is still going to be the dream, right? The very idea of going beyond it is illusory. There is no need to go beyond it, because the I of the dream is the universal I. Even though you're going to assign it to a waking body when you wake up, there is a waking up beyond that. But it's still within the dream. If it's happening in change, right? If it's happening in a world where there's change, it's not going to be unreal. We come to the place of no change, right? We come to the place where we see life as a stack of celluloid prints. There is no change. There's only the mind's snapshots of a moment, right? Just realize that you are dreaming a dream and stop looking for ways out. This is what we're getting at. Stop looking for ways out. You're surrounded by God right now. You're surrounded by one without a second, whose nature is pure love and pure wisdom. What are you trying to get away from? What will you get out of? Who would ever get out of such a thing? So all we're trying to do is understand the true nature of experience, the true nature of being, the true nature of knowing, and to begin to understand that we're not in this, that just like the dream, we are not in it. We are the container of the dream. And so it is in this world. We are not in this world. Vivekananda very clearly says, this world is in us, and we will know that at some point. The dream is not your problem, right? Your problem is that you like one part of your dream and not another. That is egoism. That's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That's identifying with senses, with body, and with mind, right? That's what gives us a particular reference. And when we take that particular reference, then we've got particular ideas about all of the other particulars. Everything becomes a particular when we become a particular. When I choose one perspective, the whole world collapses into a view from that perspective. If I believe myself to be body-mind, the whole universe collapses into a model that supports this being a body-mind and I being that, right? And so we see that the nature of the universe around us is reflective. It becomes what we are. And we've talked about that, Gandhi's whole plea, be the change you want to see, right? This is how we change the world. Because when you change, your world will change. Love everything or love none of it, right? So you can love all of it equally or love none of it. But stop complaining, accept all of it, right? This is that practice, non-resistance. When you have seen the dream as a dream, you have done all that needs to be done, right? So it means when you understand that this is a dream and it's more than just a fact to you, it's your experiential reality that this is in fact a dream, that's where fear disappears. Right? If you were in your dream at night and you had on the streets of New York and some gang is chasing you, if you believe that dream is real and you believe yourself to be in that dream, you're going to be running for your life, horrified. But suppose you're running down that alley and suddenly you come to the knowledge, hey, this is a dream. I'm asleep in my bed. I'm fine. Then suddenly the gang becomes unreal also. And you can stop running, or you can keep running, or you can stop and talk to them, turn them all into devotees and start a new Vedanta Center of New York. or you can keep running. It's up to you. And you can make the choice freely. It's a dream, after all. You are always Satchitananda.
When I was jogging and the street people started chasing me, I decided just to outrun them.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really go back and meet him or anything, but I did choose to outrun him.
Yeah. No, I think there's something to that for sure. To not be afraid. I remember I remember one night I was walking home. It was pretty late at night, and I was in a questionable part of town in San Francisco. And I was walking home, and I was on the other end of the sidewalk when I came around the corner. Were these three teenagers? Three black men, teenagers. And so, of course, I'm replaying in my mind all of this. Okay, systematic racism, and here you are being afraid. And I'm like, no, I'd be afraid no matter who they were. Three guys, big guys walking toward me at night alone on the sidewalk. Anyway, I decided, to be bold and to do away with my systematic racism and my all that stuff and just put it all aside and just walk confidently down the sidewalk. And so I did. And when we got shoulder to shoulder, and just when they were passing, the guy in the end just turned his head at me and just went, boo. I jumped clear up on the building across the street in one jump. Oh, and all four of us had a good laugh about it. Just that obvious whatever it was that happened there. But it can be like that in a dream, where it's like, know that you're a dream, know that the worst you're going to get is a boo. And the world becomes like that. Now, I'm not saying don't take care of yourself if you're in a dangerous situation, but look at Holy Mother. She's riding across that field of the dacoits, right? And she sees some dacoits coming toward her, and she's afraid. But what does she do? She swallows that fear, and she says, they are my mother and my father. And she approaches them with that attitude, they are my mother and my father, sincerely and deeply, because she was in control of the alignment of her thoughts, her words, and her actions, right? So she could do that. And because she approached them like that, they responded like that. So, and there is some indication that wasn't their initial intention. You have that story of the Peace Pilgrim that we've told, right? Where she's hitchhiking across the desert, and some truck driver picks her up in the middle of the night. And in this book on her life, he writes a section in there. He says, his intentions were not good when he picked her up. But he says how she got in the van and how she just trusted him completely, and even leaned over and put her head on his shoulder and fell asleep. And he says, there was no way I could harm her. There was no way I could violate that level of trust that she had in me. And he became a devotee of hers, and had this story in the book of her life. And so you see, the world does become what you are. But you have to be what you are. What you are can't be a thought. It can't be something changeable up here with something that doesn't have any depth. It has to be this identity, the identity of Satchitananda that runs all the way to your core. You have to know yourself to be that, right? And then you will know that this is a dream. And then you will be able to live fearlessly in that dream, live in freedom, and prefer nothing. You accept everything. Everything becomes a tool for manifestation, a tool to manifest Satchitananda within yourself. Questioner, here's a good question. I like this one. Is dreaming caused by thinking? Maharaj, of course, what is he going to say? Everything. Everything is a play of ideas. Why just dreaming? This world, this waking world, is also just a play of ideas, just a play of thoughts. In the state free from ideation, nirvikalpa samadhi, nothing is perceived, right? So there's no sense information. The root idea is I am. It shatters the state of pure consciousness and is followed by the innumerable sensations and perceptions, feelings and ideas, which in their totality constitute God and his world. The I am remains as the witness, but it is by the will of God that everything happens. Right. So to be in a state, in the state free of ideation, where there's nothing perceived, that's something we can't even conceive of. where nothing is perceived. You're getting no information from your eyes, no information from ears, no tastes from your mouth, no sensations on the body. There's no perception, right? That's a wonderful meditation. There's no perception. That's neti neti, the completion of neti neti. When not only are you denying the existence of everything, but you're actually now experiencing this unreality of the sense world, unreality of the body world, right? So it's in the state free from ideation, nirvikalpa samadhi, nothing is perceived. The root idea is I am. So there's just being. And in that being, there will be the experience of the I, of what you are. And it won't be through senses. It won't be a partial manifestation like everything that comes through the senses. It won't be broken into pieces. There'll be a singular, unchanging whole that represents a perfect balance of a pure love, a pure wisdom, and pure existence. And you will be that. You won't be in that. You will be that whole thing. And so the sum total, he says, it shatters the state of pure consciousness and is followed by the innumerable sensations and perceptions, feelings and ideas, which in their totality constitute God, right? In their totality, that's what I said. Every one of us is just a line in a book of the possible manifestations of love. And when that book is written, when every life has been lived, every expression of love has been expressed, that book, that tome of a book, would be God, right? It's the listing of all possibilities. Of course, that's because we make a very dangerous assumption that there's a limited number of possibilities. So it's quite possible that book will be continually, it'll be just like the book I'm writing. It will have a beginning and no end. So this I am is the steady state. And you can find that I am how? By doing what we talked about earlier. The I am that's right here, right now, and the I am when I'm dreaming. What is the same between those two I ams? Because everything else is different. And so we'll really give you a good sense of that in you, which is not changing, that within you that can take on any attribute, that within you, which can be a man or a woman or anything in between, can have any age, can have any gender, can have any nationality, any race, not even race, any species, any idea of life. And you would be powering all of them, because you can power this body and you can power the dream body and be fully engaged in both of them, you see. So the I am remains as the witness, but it is by the will of God that everything happens, so that we will never be the doer. As such, God, that's a whole can. I won't say a can of worms because it's God, but that's definitely a big can to open there. That by the will of God, everything happens. One, to assign a will to God is confusing to me, because God would have to be the personal God to have a will. So you're talking about the God within Maya, God, the manifested God, the personal God. And God in that form is the doer and uses us to do all of that, just like we use our dream bodies, all the dream bodies, not just the one we're inhabiting, to dream our dream. The questioner says, well, why not by my will? Maharaj, again, you've split yourself into God and witness. Both are one. So if you want to call it your will, call it your will, but you wouldn't naturally do that because you are everything. So you've split yourself into God and witness. So if God is separate from you, that's because you've not yet seen the truth. And so you're going to see God's will being separate from your own will. But in our mature self, our ripe self, the ripened ego, understands the will of the divine and the lower will to be the same. We renounce our sense of independence, our sense of separateness, not our sense of independence, but our separateness from the divine. And we merge, not by giving up what is ours to become something different, but moving from the lower to the higher, right? As all learning is. Learning is not learning that something else is wrong and now something else is right. Learning is moving forward, expanding. When you learn your plus and minuses, you don't forget that in order to learn your multiplication, right? They mature into it. And so you keep going not from wrong to right, but from lower truth to higher truth. And that's how Vivekananda describes the world. That we're not moving from wrong to right. We're moving from lower truth to higher truth. And the importance of that is allows you to respect everybody at the level of knowledge that they're at, right? From lower truth to higher truth. They're not wrong. They've just got a different place in truth. All right, so why not my will? It is your will, but it's not an ego will. So that's the difference. When there's an ego, there's impurity. And so when there's the will of God, there's no impurity in it. And so we interpret the actions of God to have impurity in it. That's why we're always complaining, right? Or seeing things as right and wrong, because we have our ideation of what's right and wrong, and we measure God accordingly. And he doesn't always shape up, doesn't always meet our criteria. But when we gather the mind of God or grow into the mind of God, which is our own mind in its maturity, our own ripened mind, the ripened ego that Thakur talks about, it's that sense of separateness, but that sense of separateness that's been surrendered to God as mother, or God as lover, or God as father, or God as master. Right? Now he's going to step into the real meat of it here. Chapter 30. You are free now. Okay, you are free now. Boom. Wave the magic wand. Whoosh. Vivekananda could do that, but he, do you know that story when he's in New York lecturing, and he said the lecture, there was such an atmosphere in the room that he knew he could give everybody in that room enlightenment. And what did he do? He stopped talking and walked off the stage because he didn't want to violate their own freedom, right? And also because they wouldn't be able to hold on to it. They had not mended all the holes in their baskets yet. And so that realization would have been short-lived. And anyway, he didn't do it. All right, so you are free now. The questioner, there are so many theories about the nature of man and the universe. The creation theory, the illusion theory, the dream theory, any number of them. Which is true? And then now he's
conspiracy theory on it.
Yeah, conspiracy theory. They're all there. Which one's true? And Maharaj gives this infuriating answer, of course. Well, they're all true, and they're all false. All right, you can pick up whichever one you like best, right? It's the rungs of the ladder. None of them is the roof, but all of them, when used properly, can get you to the roof, right? So this is that view. If you live in this world thinking that it's full of objects of desire and that something that you need or want lays out there somewhere for you to find, then this world's going to be around for a very long time. You're not going to resolve your experience of it for quite some time. You're going to get caught in lots of little eddies and whirlpools of desire out there until you've worked through them all. But if you walk through this world knowing that it's the dream of the beloved and that everything is rooted in love and everything is rooted in a wisdom, and you approach everything as that, as a reflection of your beloved, you grow much faster. You become inspired much more deeply, and you move through this world much more quickly. Right? So it does matter. It does matter which view you're going to take. Some are vidya and some are avidya. Right? Maya is not all equal. Some things in Maya will take you toward unity, toward freedom, and some things will not. Some things will become troublesome. And that's how we define morality, actually. Vivekananda says that everything that leads toward unity or relies on a unity for its truth is vidya. That's light. That's ethical. That's good. And anything that takes you toward or requires a multiplicity to be true is evil, or is unhelpful, or is avidya, is darkness, right? And so placing your view and perspective on a stable axiom like love and wisdom will ultimately resolve your world into that clarity for you, right? So yes, everything is an illusion, and you can pick whichever. He doesn't just say you can pick whichever you like. He says whichever you like best. You know, which one is working for you, which one is getting you more hours of contentment than the other one. The questioner says, "Well, you seem to favor the dream theory." Indeed, Maharaj. And this is important. Really hear this. This is interesting. These are all just ways of putting words together. Some favor one way, some favor another. Theories are neither right nor wrong. They are attempts at explaining the inexplicable. It is not the theory that matters, but the way that it is being tested. It is the testing of the theory that makes it fruitful. Experiment with any theory you like. If you are truly earnest and honest, the attainment of reality will be yours. As a living being, you are caught in an untenable and painful situation, and you are seeking a way out. You are being offered several plans of your prison. None of them are quite true, but they all are of some value. Only if you are in dead earnest. It is the earnestness that liberates, and not the theory. Wow. There's the root of it right there. It's the earnestness that liberates, and not the theory, right? So it's not the religion that's the point. It's not the philosophy that's the point. It's the earnestness of the seeker, the earnestness to know truth, the earnestness to know truth at any cost, being willing to throw off anything in that pursuit, in that understanding. So it ties directly in with Ramakrishna's statement. The one most important thing is earnestness and sincerity, that longing for God. So it is the earnestness that liberates, and not the theory. And we just take on, sorry, my book is running out of battery. Oh, these things, they all bind us in some way. Everything. So the questioner says, well, theory may be misleading and earnestness blind. Maharaj, your sincerity will guide you. Right? Your sincerity, if you're not lying to yourself, that will guide you, that will take you forward. So there is, and this is very interesting. It's good pondering how much we lie to ourselves. The more, this is something that surprises me about me. And it's something I'm a little embarrassed to say out loud, but I think it might be helpful. So I will. The number of ways that I deceive myself in my own mind, and the deceit is not usually by a statement of deceit. It's usually by an avoidance or a pushing away of truth, of a knowing. I know this isn't best for me. And instead of putting it on the table and dealing with it right then and there and being earnest and sincere about it, right? If I do that, then I know I won't do what I want to do, right? But if that earnestness and sincerity is not there, then we allow ourselves to push the truth back, to push the knowing back, to make room for what we want to do, for what we want to express, for what we want to be. And so it's been quite eye-opening for me to see the amount of lying that my own mind does for the sake of the ego, just to give the ego what it wants. And this, I think this is really the summary of realization. When you stop lying to yourself, when you stop accepting that avoidance of truth, or that avoidance of duty, or that avoidance of truth, that's realization. That's when you become one person. Right until then, you're two people. You're the person that's lying to yourself, and you're the person that's believing it. Right? You're kind of playing both aspects, because really and truly, there is only one person in you. But we break ourselves into multiple voices all the time. That's what thinking is usually about. And when you identify with those voices that you've created in your mind, when you identify with one, you think it's relevant to you, you think it is you, or you like or don't like its idea, then you invest a certain amount of sentience in that voice. And that's why we have arguments within ourselves. That's why we can't just say, I'm going to do the right thing and know that it's always going to be true, because we aren't one person. We can have one part of us say, oh, I'm going to do the right thing all the time. But then that other half of us that likes lollipops is going to be walking along grabbing lollipops off the shelf the whole time. Right? And your earnestness, if you're earnest, you'll look over your shoulder and you'll see yourself grabbing lollipops and you'll stop. If you're not earnest, you'll just keep quickly walking along, not paying any attention, and handing purses with your other arm to put the lollipops in, and so you'll be self-sabotaging. So
sorry.
Yes, please.
But I think the other way, that if you know that you are want the lollipop, and even if you grab it and then you accept it and you bless it, and you treat it just like he said in the previous page, that it's by the will of God that everything happens, and you accept that as a part of you, then it is the path of least resistance and still being one. Which I was trying to say yesterday, that it is by the will of God. And if you notice it, you have to notice it. I agree.
Right.
But you accept it and bless it.
We're saying the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm saying it from the point of not being there yet, and you're saying it from the point of being there. It's from the point of having that awareness and that unity of thinking inside, and that sincerity. So there's not an argument happening.
I see.
Inside. You're seeing it as the will of God. You're seeing it as a thing without all of your ick, all of your stuff that's going to define it incorrectly. Once that stuff is gone, then you can see correctly. You can see it as the will of God, and you can move forward. But the problem is that, like in the state that I find myself in quite often, I know that I shouldn't eat that big chocolate piece of cake. And I'll be able to walk by it one time, two times, 3 times. And that 4th time, there's chocolate on my finger. And I begin arguing about it, because my mind brings up again and again, oh, how good that cake was. It doesn't bring up how I got on the scale the next morning and was over 200 pounds. It doesn't put that in my mind, because that's not what helps what I want. It just puts the good flavor of chocolate cake in my mind. And I just keep circling on that until I give in. And that's the lie. That's the lying of the senses, because I need all the information. If I'm sincere and if I'm earnest, I'll take all of the information into account. I'll be like, yes, I like chocolate. But no, I don't like heart attacks. Yes, I like chocolate, but I don't like having to buy new wardrobes every other week because I'm outgrowing everything. So you take all of that into perspective, and you naturally make a right decision. That's the mind that's unified. That's the mind that there's only one person in there. That's Satchitananda speaking, right? That when the voice of conscience and the voice of mind become one, that's enlightenment. That the voice of conscience, which actually is the voice of the right, the divine, that voice becomes your own. It's not that you give up your voice and become something else. You grow into your true voice, is what's happening. All right. So he says, your sincerity will guide you. So just he says that just this is really important here, because he's just got finished telling us, if you're earnest and sincere, that's what's going to get you there. That's what liberates us. And the guy says, well, gosh, can't you, earnestness is blind. You can be earnest about anything, and the theory may be misleading. And Maharaj says, no, because there's something else within you. There's Satchitananda within you. Yes, if you were nothing, if you were empty in your nature, then yes, what you would say be true. You could be misled by anything. But you're not empty in your nature. You are a nature. You are a nature of love, wisdom, and being. And so sincerity has to be in abeyance with Satchitananda. Otherwise, it can't be sincere. You can't, if you are who you are, you're a pure expression of love, wisdom, and being. If you're not who you are, then you can be anything else you want. So he's saying your sincerity is what makes the difference. How much are you willing to hold to clarity and to truth? Are you willing to have your desires taken away from you by being sincere and earnest? Are you willing to give up your false longings? Are you willing to give up your false sense of yourself? Are you willing to give up being a man, being a woman, being rich, being poor, being handsome, being ugly? Can you let go of all those things? Devotion to the goal of freedom and perfection will make you abandon all theories and systems and live by wisdom, intelligence, and active love. Exactly what we just said, right? Theories may be good as starting points, but must be abandoned. The sooner, the better. So you see, religions are good scaffolding, but religions are not the building. And even more, they are not the God in the building, right? So we can use any of these theories, any of these ideas, any of these practices that have been listed out by the sages. We can do them all, but ultimately they all get abandoned, not necessarily through rejection, but through silence, right? You begin withdrawing from mind. You begin withdrawing from body. You begin sitting in the self, being informed by the divine principle within you. And your actions become purified and become direct manifestations of that divine principle within you. And you abandon all external things. You abandon all things of the mind. You abandon all ways of thinking. And you become spontaneously inspired. Spontaneously inspired, in one way of looking at it, through the presence of God. Or spontaneously inspired by having no sense of self, no small sense of self, being fully identified with your beloved, with the divine. So your sincerity will guide you. Devotion to the goal of freedom and perfection will make you abandon all theories and systems and live by wisdom, live by intelligence, and live by active love. Theories may be good as starting points, but they must be abandoned sooner. The sooner, the better. So we let go. It's good to be born in a church, Vivekananda says, but it's not good to die in one. So we'll start there next week.